So we're going to now do the lower body length sequence, but add in one of my favorite melt length moves, the drawbridge. And so what's lovely about adding in the drawbridge, the bend knee press accesses the front line of the body, the hip to heel press does the back line of the body. With the drawbridge, you kind of get them all together. You add in the lateral line, the spiral line, and the rooted core. So what's really important to remember about that rooted core is you want to ever so slightly internally rotate that raised straight leg before you lower it. You just don't want it to be externally rotated, right? And so that's going to aggravate TFL. And Sue talked about this in the tutorial. We don't want anyone hanging off their inguinal ligament because that doesn't need any more length. We want to bring it to the rooted core and then scoop it up behind the organs to the diaphragm. Really sink what I call your empire waist down to the ground so your ribs are heavy, and then turn your head away from that, getting that full spiral line. So let's do it. So lie on your back with your arms and your legs straight and your palms facing up. Let's assess our 4 common imbalances and see if we have stuck stress hiding in our shoulder girdle, our diaphragm, and our pelvic girdle. So take a focused breath and tune into your upper body. So we know if you have a lot of accumulated stress in your shoulders, then instead of your head feeling centered, you'll feel like your head is turned a little right or left, or the point of contact is a little too high up behind your forehead. And then in your neck, instead of a nice open lifted curve, you might feel like it's straight or flat or tight. And then in the shoulder girdle itself, you might feel like one shoulder blade is heavier or one arm is longer. And then the most common imbalance in this area is that the ribs are light or even completely off the ground. So notice if you feel all of your upper back weight just propped against your shoulder blades. That's a sign of accumulated stress in your shoulder girdle. Now scan down your body, notice the arch in your back. Where does it begin and end? You might even want to insert a finger into your belly button. And just see if you feel most of the curve is south of where you're poking towards your pelvis or north towards your ribs. If you're feeling it more north, more of a mid-back curve rather than a low back curve, that's a sign of accumulated stress in your diaphragm. So take a nice focused breath and bring your awareness to your lower body. Here, if you have a lot of accumulated stress in your pelvis, you'll feel instead of 2 fluffy, equally weighted butt cheeks on the floor, like your tailbone's really digging in, or one butt cheek is heavier than the other. And then in the back of the thighs, instead of feeling 2 masses weighted to the ground, one will be lighter than the other, or they'll both completely be off the ground, floating in the air. Scan quickly down to your lower leg. Just notice any changes from right to left. Maybe you feel like you're resting more on the side of one leg, or your toe is more flopped open, more on one side. Notice if you have an ankle bone bumping into the ground on one or both sides. And then check in with those 4 common imbalances just one more time. If you feel like all of your upper back weight is propped against the shoulder blades, if your low back arch is a little too high up in your spine, if your tailbone is heavy or the back of the thighs are light, you know you have accumulated stress living in your body. So let's just see if we have any sense of accumulated stress as we turn our head. Turn your head slowly right and left. And 3 things here to assess are, do you feel like you turn equally, or do you go farther to one side? Do you feel any clicking or grinding or even pain, especially at the end range? And do you feel like your shoulders are moving a whole lot just to turn your head in this very relaxed position? Come on back to center. Finally, let's see how our autopilot is doing today. Split yourself down your center. See if you feel one whole side more on the ground. If you're feeling lopsided or skewed, your autopilot is having trouble connecting to your center of gravity, and we definitely want to take care of that. Let's see if we can bring some fluid to the pelvis and create a change by doing the lower body length sequence. So now bend your knees and draw the roller underneath the back of your thighs. And just raise your hips up onto the roller. And make sure that you're in the proper position. You don't want it to be too high, close to your low back, or too low, close to those butt cheeks. You're halfway up your pelvis, sort of mid-sacrum. And if you bring your knees all the way into your chest, you're not going to lose that roller at all. So from here, just bring your feet back down, and let's just see how our tuck and tilt is from this position. It's quite different with your hips elevated up. So roll your pelvis under for the tuck, pubic bone looks at the back wall, and the ribs sink into the floor behind you. Just notice if your feet are light. Don't press into those feet or squeeze your bum. And now from here, do a subtle tilt. It's almost just like an untuck. So really feel how your butt cheeks spread out a little bit on the roller, your pelvis gets heavy, your feet get light. That's your tilt, but don't let those ribs come with you. Make sure you're differentiating. So it's not an over the top position, it's an on the top position. So from here, just find your core. So make your hips even heavier, make your feet even lighter, and then it should be no problem to bring your knees into the air. So remember, your thighs are about perpendicular. They might even be subtly pointed towards your head. And from here, we're going to do our SI joint shear. So start at 12 o'clock in the middle, and then just find 1 o'clock on the right and 11 o'clock on the left. Don't go too far because you'll miss that SI joint. It's just a little bit off center where the dimples would be on a baby's bottom. So maybe one side is feeling more tender, start on that side and just begin to make some nice circles, circling both knees together for this passive shear. So the upper body's relaxed, you're using your core so that nothing else is moving along with the knees, just the knees on their own in this nice small circle. And then pause, and we can do a different kind of passive shear, just circling the one knee on its own. That's the knee that's closer to the top of the roller. So if you're leaning to the right, it's the right knee. If you're leaning to the left, it's the left knee. Start small, you can get a little bigger, but if there's any clicking or popping in the joint, you've gone too far. And then you can try a march. One knee goes in, and then the other. Make sure that you're not straightening your leg. It's not like a bicycle, right? You just want to unfold at the hip joint. And then pause, line up your knees on that angle, either 11 or 1, and take a nice focused breath. Draw that belly in, go through center and over to the other side. So let's begin our passive shearing on that side. And you're just going to circle a few times in a small, like a saucer size circle, a tea saucer. And then you can pause and just do the knee that's a little closer to the top of the roller. And reverse the circle right there. And that's bringing a nice amount of fluid to the front of the pelvis. I actually love this one. It really feels like I'm getting right into the hip joint, into that joint capsule. And then pause and march. And then after we shear, we always want to wait for the tissue to adapt to the compression. So just pause for a moment, take a nice focused breath. Great. So come on back to center. Now it's time for the bent knee press. So put one foot on the floor, flat, and you're just going to hold on to your other knee nice and loosely. Don't pull it in just yet while we set up. So make sure that foot on the floor is making good contact all the way from the ball of the big toe to the heel, and that the knee is pointing straight forward like a headlight. So don't let it bow open to the side and then lose contact with the ball of the big toe. So the most important thing to know about the bent knee press is that it is a tuck. So gently roll your pelvis under into a tuck. You'll already feel the beginning of a two-directional length sensation on the top of the thigh. And then follow through with the core. So take a nice focused breath. On your exhale, say shh. And then gently draw the other thigh towards your belly. Think about the front knee going front as the back knee goes back. So just back off a slight bit of pressure on your inhale. Soften. And then exhale and re-engage. Shh. Check that that knee hasn't swung out and that big toe has lost contact. So pause, inhale, reset, make sure that you have good contact, and then take a nice focused breath. Shh. Remember, it's only 3 breaths, so it's time for our other side. So set your foot down, draw the other leg into your belly. Pause here and just see that the knee is straight forward, and then tuck your pelvis under. Pubic bone goes to the back wall and ribs settle into the mat. Take a nice focused breath. Exhale and say, shh. Draw the thigh into the belly. On this side, just make sure that you're not hiking up your hip on one side. Remember that 4-point square that Sue talked about in the tutorial. Inhale, back off the pressure, and exhale, try again. Shh. What a gorgeous, nice lengthening sensation on the top of your thigh. Last time, inhale. Shh. Awesome. So let's go straight into the hip to heel press. So from here, with that knee into your chest, just relax your arms down. And just to make sure that we're not in a tuck, I want you to tuck a little more and then untuck. And remember, that's your tilt. Really feel the broadening of the pelvis on the top of the roller. And from here, flex your foot and kick your leg straight out. And then with a nice straight leg and firm muscles in your leg, bring your leg up. And when you start to feel that tugging sensation, you're done. So this is as high as I can go because I have a hamstring injury. If you're super flexible and you can get your leg all the way over here, then back off that and really see if you can find perpendicular. So from here, point and flex. And this is a great time to identify what it feels like to create a stretching sensation. So it's segmented, it's just in your calf, it's contracting and releasing. That's a muscular stretch. So now let's make it length. So you're going to reach your heel to the sky in a flexed position of your heel, and then really untuck your pelvis even more into that tilt. So the hips sink down as the heel reaches away. Now we're looking for that long line of pull all the way from hip to heel, and you're going to make the foot on the floor nice and light. So take one more breath here. Settle those ribs down, and then let's try the other side. Bring that knee in, flex the foot, and then a slow motion karate kick straight out in front of you. Really keep that leg straight and activate the muscles as you bring the leg up. As soon as you feel that tugging sensation, you're there. Don't go too far overhead. Remember, you flexible folk. And then point and flex. So here you're feeling the stretch in the calf. That's wonderful. You really want to make sure that your leg is straight. Remember, that's the most important thing here. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get that consistent line of pull all along the back line of the leg. And then flex your heel and reach it energetically up towards the ceiling. At the same time, untuck even more. Really send some pressure straight down into the top of the roller without popping the ribs up. So ribs are heavy, pelvis is heavy, heel is reaching away from the pelvis, and the foot on the floor is nice and light. Take a nice focused breath. Great. So now bring both knees into your chest, and let's add the drawbridge to this sequence. So you're going to take one arm and pull the shin closer to your belly. You really want to get the thigh and the belly to be best friends. You're going to extend the other leg straight up towards the ceiling and ever so slightly internally rotate the thigh to face the other thigh. And then point through the top of the foot, but don't cramp through the toes. So just make it like the dorsum of the foot is reaching in alignment with the rest of the top of the leg. And then from there, use your muscles, reach, reach, reach as you lower that leg until it can go no farther. And then you're going to draw the other thigh in. This is a tucking where the pubic bone reaches to the back wall as the ribs sink to the floor. Take the arm overhead and really lengthen that whole side of your body. Lift your head and just slightly turn your head away from your arm so the ear touches the floor. 3 breaths. Inhale, and then on the exhale, even emphasize that tucking more. Make sure your hips are square. Really sink your ribs. I call this the empire waist. Take a nice focused breath and exhale once again. Say, shh. Great. So bring your knee and your arm in. So let's do our second side. You're going to interlace both hands over the top of that shin and then extend the other leg to the ceiling. Slight internal rotation and then point through the top of the foot, reaching the entire front of the leg toward the ceiling. And if this bothers your knee, you can also try to wrap the elbow underneath the knee to get good contact between the thigh and the belly. And you might not get all the way there, but you want to create as much connection in this area as possible. So lower this leg, reaching, 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 activating the muscles as you go. And then when you can go no farther, take the arm overhead. Don't let it touch the floor because then your ribs will pop. But really reach the arm away from the leg and turn the head away from your arm. Tuck, sink, breathe. Take a nice breath in on your exhale. Say, shh. Another breath in. Sink those ribs more. Reach long, long, long through that open side of your body. Make sure you're not hiking up your hip. And then bring the leg in. Lift your hips up. Move the roller out of the way. Lie on your back. And let's see what changes we've created, both direct and indirect. So tune into your masses and spaces. Use your body sense. Wow. Well, I feel like my upper body has completely changed position on the floor. So my ribs have totally dropped. It almost feels like my shoulder blades are lighter than my rib cage. And that the arch of my back feels much closer to my pelvis. So this is if you're feeling something similar, then this is a great sign that the indirect before direct approach has revealed some stuck stress in your upper body being caused by your lower body. So now notice that lower body where we work directly. Does it feel like your pelvis is spread out? Do you have more butt cheek than tailbone? And have you gotten the back of the thighs to drop into the ground? You might even notice some changes in the back of your knees or your calves. Maybe your feet are making more of a V because we've released some accumulated stress in the pelvis rather than a flopped open position. And then check in with your neck. Turn your head slowly right and left. Lovely. Just see if you've juiced up the entire back line of the body and release the neck as well. Do you feel like you have more range of motion, less clicking, grinding, tugging, pain sensations? And maybe your shoulders are also more relaxed as you turn your head. You're differentiating better up top as well. Come back and let's reassess the autopilot. Just feel how balanced you feel all together from right to left, how integrated, and take a nice focused breath. There you go. That's our lower body length sequence.